History was made. It was expected to be made in some sense, but I don't think people were quite ready for how crazy it was. Hello and welcome to Vision Denial. My name is Sam and this is World Watch, and the grand finals of Worlds has come and gone. Congratulations to T1. So sorry, Weibo Gaming, although I don't think many people expected you to get this far, so congratulations on that. If you're new to this channel, I've watched every single playoff game and every single international competition that from the participating regions of the World League of Legends Championship. So the season's over. There's no more games for the rest of the year. We have to wait till April for the next set of playoffs, or February, March. It depends on the region. And we sit here with fun. It was fun. The last, it was a very one-sided affair, right? 3-0 was kind of the expected result for many, especially from the momentum that T1 was having. So we went from a bunch of years in a row where it was full 5 games or even 4 games to another 3-0. Hopefully it's not another trend of 3-0s, but I think this one was appropriate given how well T1 was doing. So what from here on out? Well, first let's actually go through let's go through the review. If you're unfamiliar, I do through reviews of every series and best of fives and games in international tournaments. You'll see my link of it in the TikTok that I've linked down below, although I will not be posting there for quite so long, so take that as you may. But let's actually review my thoughts when it ended. Never has there been a feat like 3 world titles, and now the feat is harder to achieve than ever with 4. Now, firstly, I do want to commend Weibo on their attempts in this series. I'm of the mind that they were very well prepared for this series from the draft angle. They clearly understood the angles of approach to challenge T1, and it's seen here and there from moments of gameplay during this series. Now, however, the lack of proactivity and agency allowed T1 so much space to play just the way that they wanted to, and oh boy did they ever play. From incredible vision to solid neutral setups, laning phase, and especially their coordination, the level of coordination that exists with this roster is outstanding. It enables the very fringe play that most of the teams would actually struggle to actually accomplish. The risk taken looks incredible from them. Now, at moments, it was a little dicey, but given the amount of control that they were allowed to have, means that they could play with so much flexibility. My MVP for this series goes to Zeus, who absolutely demolished his lane and applied an intense amount of pressure for all points of the game. But my MVP for the freaking year goes to Faker, whose clear presence made such a huge difference with the coordination and cohesion of this team. Congrats to T1 on their 4th World Championship. Cheers to that. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Again, all due respect towards Weibo, but you frankly didn't have a chance. It would have been quite a shock and an upset if you did win. It would have been an incredible upset, but it would have been still an upset in that sense. I honestly had not many more thoughts other than what I had said in that review regarding the tournament itself, outside of how solid the actual meta was. And not necessarily ooh, do we want to play this exact same meta again? No, I don't think so. Mostly because that would be a little boring, but also just from the way most teams had very limited champion pool, and very few actually had the breadth to compete within that particular time frame. But I do appreciate how each stage, from like world qualifiers to play-ins to Swiss and to bracket, the meta looked drastically different. Where the focus was so different. And honestly, great. So let's actually talk about the last two teams that participated. Let's talk about the runner-up, Weibo. I've akin Weibo to G2 in the sense that they had such a drastic shift between like how good they can be and how good they usually are. This was a team that I had zero expectations to qualify for Worlds, and people talked about the same kind of like storyline about a team that barely qualified and how they defied all odds. It's not the same thing, right? The difference between Weibo and Edward Gaming going into the regional finals is not the same to how DRX came into the regional finals and kind of shocked people. The skill difference is wildly different in comparison. But it is to be stated that Weibo was the most similar to G2 in terms of breadth of skill, right? Which is why, like, if you had people expectations of, like, NRG has a chance of beating Weibo, it's within the same kind of vein, right? They either play out of their mind, they look like the best team ever because they're a super team, or most of the time they're just an uncoordinated mess with players who have, I wouldn't say big egos, but players who have very big, like, play styles and very distinct play styles that don't necessarily gel all the time. Their coordination is inconsistent at best. And so to see them, like, and this is arguable in terms of if the bracket they went through was the easier bracket, like, there's an argument to be said by that. But that doesn't stop the fact that, like, the only easy team they had to face was NRG, and they had a very likely chance if they were not actually going to be full on that day to just lose against them. BD is no slouch on that sense. They were expected, after beating Gen G, to just make it to the finals and have a tiebreaker against JD Gaming. We know how that side ended. So I do want to commend Weibo on how well they did, because they deserved how well they went. This was not as big of a shock as people are comparing them to DRX. This wasn't like lazy writing, or so to speak. So, good shit, Weibo. Your variance on how good you are to how bad you are on some days caught up to you in the finals, which is unfortunate. A little bit more competition would have been fun. But you did incredible given the expectations that were held against you. Let's talk about the big winners of the whole tournament. 4-time world champions, especially Faker, who has his 4th title amongst this group. T1. Frankly, I don't think many people expected T1 to make it this far. Maybe to make it through bracket stage, that was the bare minimum expectation, and they did. Having been part of LNG, there was a small chance that they would not beat LNG. They did against JD Gaming. It was pretty much a wash. JD Gaming had been the best team in the world. They beat them. And the second that happened, to me, everybody was solidified with T1 is winning the whole thing. So, well, that's pretty much it. I'm like, yeah, they stood 2nd to 3rd place in every single portion of how they competed in the last 2 years with this exact 5-man roster. This is incredible. They achieved exactly what they needed. They got one local title. They got many 2nd to 3rd places around the board, and then they won the most important title of the year. That's great. There's not really a whole lot more to talk about outside of just the achievement that most of these players have gotten from this, right? From Owner really stepping up, from Zeus all of a sudden really returning to form, Gumayusi and Karya getting the redemption in the sense of like being able to compete again and show truly how good they are as like the best bot lane in the world. And while that title can be argued a little bit, their creativity and the breadth of champion pool is really what made the difference in the bracket stage. most of the bot lanes didn't have this breadth of champion pool. And then when they were like, oh, we know how to play this, this is something we used to play, and they try to pull it out, it was not to the same kind of success. So, to those four, excellent. And to Faker, who, for the longest time, people were just kind of like, oh, he does not mechanically hold up anymore. He's just kind of a shot caller. And to some degree, sure, you can say that, but this tournament shows that no. He may not be to the peak form of he can now just out lane everybody, outmaneuver everybody, because I think from time, people have caught up a little bit to within a range of how he plays. So it looks weirder, but no. You cannot play to that kind of level of competition where only very few people in your role can actually like step up or beat you. Kind of speaks to a record that cannot be beaten. Anybody else who was close to beating his 4 world championships are not on this team, are retired, or coaching somewhere else. I don't think anybody's going to beat this title for the lifetime of League of Legends, other than Faker himself. So, I guess that's it. That's Worlds. What now? Well, even within a day, not even within a day, within like minutes after the finals were done, people were talking about roster changes. The big narrative of T1 during the tournament was this is likely the last year all 5 of these guys are going to play. And after the victory, I would say commiseration, if that's the right term, is it would be a shame if they did split up. Very few rosters stay together after a world championship win. Very few. And if they do, they never do as well the year after, just historically speaking. I don't think I could point to a single roster that 2 years in a row won the world championship completely. And like, even comparing, let's say, the most dominant 2 years, right, with T1, as a matter of fact, up, and Wolf, and then 2016, the year they both won. Yeah, this is like they didn't even keep the same roster. T1 didn't even keep the same roster 2 years in a row and still won 2 years in a row. Not a single team who has won the world championship kept the same roster again to win the world, and if they kept the same roster, didn't win. Why is that? Well, because like cohesion within a roster only works as well as their flexibility, and players are not necessarily as consistent within their flexibility as you would think. There's a reason why there's only very specific players who actually have long-standing careers the way that they do, and cohesion within their playstyles will degrade over time with patch changes and everything. So that, and once you win a world championship, let's be realistic, the offers come through the woodwork for everybody, right? Even Faker would just get inundated on that situation. So it does not surprise me if even at least one player gets an offer that they just can't refuse. This is just the pure fact of the situation. It is unfortunate. It is a little saddening, but it should be well expected on the situation that this is the last time we'll see this roster play as well as it did. Now, if I am proven wrong, and they break record and come back next year and then win again, it'll be a precedent and a status that'll be another record that cannot be matched for a long time. So be prepared for many teams. I think the only teams that will not change are the ones that did not even make through the bracket. Every team that made it through the bracket stage is going to be changed completely. or nearly all of them. I think maybe JD Gaming stays. It'd be a surprise for me if BD sticks together. It'd be a big surprise if Weibo even stays together. So that's just them's the breaks on that situation. So what else do we look at? Well, as of recording right now, today they finally did a trailer breakdown of the preseason, which has huge change to the maps. Starting off right there, I believe they're great changes to the maps. It allows a lot more flexibility in pathing. It helps change the jungle meta to a way that is a little stronger to diversify things without changing numbers. It helps many lanes update the way they do their play patterns in a way that is just a breath of fresh air. The changes to the Rift Herald, I will have to wait and see how that applies. Those little grublins, whatever they're called, the one where you get an extra buff to damage to turrets, and if you get all 6, you get an extra buff. I don't know. I kind of liked how the early Herald was helping to get the plates down. It created a tension and a play pattern that allowed a lot of choices. I did not like the second Herald, but I think it was necessarily for keeping the time. And now they've gotten rid of that in some sense. The Herald is second after plates are gone, which gives it just the capability of roaming and hitting things and driving it. It's wacky. It's an idea. I don't know if it's a good idea yet. It'll have to be shown in practice. A lot of the stuff they've done with the Rift Herald will have to be wait and see to see what happens in practice. I'm hopeful. The top side of the map in terms of neutral objectives have been a great selling point on things. How Baron changes the map again in terms of like the different buffs that exist around the map. Fantastic. The way that the pit is changed. Excellent. The fact that they're aware that the change of the map needs and necessitates a change to the environmental impacts of the drakes. So like the Infernal Drake having been changed completely is awesome. What they referred to, I do not like. Like having to collect things, they give you a bonus and then you die and then they drop and then whoever killed you gets it instead. Feels just like a rehash of a red and blue buff, but with extra steps. And honestly, no. But I also don't have a better idea. So this is another wait and see. I am also hoping that the Mountain Drake gets something other than build more walls. So we'll also see on that regards. Cloud Drake, I would have also loved it. Like honestly, all of the Drakes, all of like the original 4 Drakes, I think would have benefited from a change, and I think an Elder Drake would have had a benefit of having also an environmental change the second that it came through. That's my thought. Like all of a sudden, everything from the previous Drake either supercharged or removed completely for a different map layout. Just a thought. An idea. But that's just me screaming into the void of some things. Item changes every year is great. I'm glad that they're scrapping the mythic item system. It did not do what people, or it did not do what they expected it should do, which is a shame because I liked what their intent was, which was to help diversify different item pathing to make sure that the first item, the mythic item that you built, satisfied the core requirements of your build. Great, but then it just made the builds more niche. So, oops. So returning them to what they were, to the system that they were previously, and adding a whole host of new items is cool. We'll have to see what the items do. New items sometimes require to be removed, hotfixed, or whatever. We'll have to see. Right? A lot of these we'll have to see, but I am optimistic about this year's changes. How they play out in competitive play versus casual play is beyond me, but we have months before that has to be an issue. So yeah. So with that, that is the end of the 13th season. 13th? Yeah, 13th season of League of Legends, or the 2023 season, depending on how and you want to talk about it. I want to ask all to you. What was your favorite part of the year? Like which storyline, what aspects, what part of the gameplay and meta? I want to hear from you in the comments below. What was your favorite part? To me, it was the story of the JD Gaming versus BD, where BD could never beat JD Gaming, and they never got a chance to do that last rematch against them. I think that is hilarious. That, and I'm glad that Faker finally got his 4th title. It was 7 years in the making. So, good shit. That's pretty much it on my end. So, this will be the last that I see all of you until the possibly, depending on either if I get the motivation to make that one video I keep saying that I want to make, or if I do decide to continue doing this particular series. It is fun, but sometimes a little overwhelming, so we'll see. Thank you, all of you who do watch. It's fantastic, and those who listen in. I will, if I do see you next time, it'll likely be for the spring playoff in 2024. Thank you.